Hi, what's up, me Duole podcast listeners? Stuart Anderson here with just a short introduction before we get on with Queen of Gravel, Alison Tetrick. We're so grateful for the time she spent with us. She's so fun, and me and Chip just loved interviewing her and hearing all about her experiences and stories and advice. She's got some great advice for the team. Chip actually met her at Wasatch All Road, and I saw her ride by me at Lodija going up Snake River. So anyway, good connection with Alison. Thankful for her and the time she spent with us. Don't forget, little team barbecue planned for October 9th. It's a Saturday night on the back patio of Barbacoa up on Wasatch. So we'll have a little awards program for our MVPs and some fun Triple Crown winners, just some fun end of the season stuff. So October 9th, some details on Facebook and on our email system. So that's it really. We're working on kits for 2022, all white Me Duole kits. They look awesome. Some really fun new things that are going to be coming out for next year, including a cargo pocket short, a custom cargo pocket bib that's going to be so awesome for the team and all you dirt lovers. So anyway, lots of fun stuff coming. Grateful for the podcast. Thankful for each of you. And a big shout out to Alison. All right, enjoy. All right, everybody. Welcome to Me Duole podcast. Grateful to be with you today. So excited for our guest, Alison Tetrick. Welcome, Alison.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And Spence is joining us. Not a whole lot of announcements for the team. Just super grateful for everybody that did Lodija. 58 different Me Duole riders raced and had a great day. I'm just kind of glad it's over, to be honest. Chip?
Hey, I am glad and grateful for it being over. But there is one good, solid announcements too, and that is on October 9th, team party.
That's right.
Ooh,
okay.
To finish up the season. You are invited, Allie.
Yeah, Barbacoa, patio Barbacoa up on Wasatch Boulevard. So we're going to do some awards. Chip is getting the Triple Crown for competing in Crusher, Point to Point, and Lodija. I even think you need a special thing, Chip, because you did All Road too.
Yes, that is where I met Allie riding up the nasty Wasatch wall.
yeah,
No,
that was really fun. You were having fun, good time riding. You were like, "Why are you back here?" And I was like, "Well, I wouldn't get a ride with you if I wasn't."
That's right.
Those are some fun pictures of you guys. I guess that was fun. Was that a fun moment of that day for you guys?
The Wasatch Wall started out okay. I think it was maybe once you got to 11,000 or 12,000 vert that it started to wonder, when is this going to? It's a long day. It's a lot of climbing.
Yeah, I didn't realize how long we would spend that high. Like, I wasn't worried about the climbing, and I had, did Leadville and Steamboat, like Lead Boat, and then the last best ride in Wasatch was on my way home, and I just was like, yeah, I'll go. But like how long we spent above like 9,000 feet just, on those rollers and riding, like I didn't realize that until, you got up there and you're like, we're not going down. We're not really going up, but we're real high. We are real high. I rode a full switch mountain bike, so I was like very comfortable. Definitely not racing it. So, it was actually really fun. I know I raced gravel, but, it was fun not to race and ride my Epic Evo. I rode my Leadville setup.
I think a lot of people, and Chip, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think a lot of people wish they had ridden like a mountain bike on that day.
Yeah, that gravel, and Allie, you should compare what that gravel, like going up that Wasatch Wall, is compared to gravel events around the country that you've been racing in. It's nasty, right? Climbing that Wasatch Wall, like that gravel was like, that is nasty.
Yeah, that was, I was very happy with the mountain bike. My gravel bike, I didn't plan on doing. I'm good friends with Jeff Lauder that put on the event. He's a wonderful human being. And I've been talking to him for a year about this event, he's like trying to get me out. I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm telling him what's cool in gravel and what's not. I definitely was like after party and beer. I know you guys are in Utah, but I think that's so cool, right? And what made it fun. And then when finally we're coming through, and I had my gravel bike set up for steamboat with the new SRAM Explorer group, which is a 1044 instead of the normal 1050. So it's better for like fast gravel, but doesn't have that 50, mullet bailout. And he was like, if you're not racing, you might like riding your mountain bike. And I'm like, if Louder's telling me that, I was, so I think that was definitely very difficult. Some of those descents were very chunky as well. But that's the funny thing about gravel is like, what is gravel? Sometimes it's mountain biking. Sometimes it's road racing. Sometimes it's like random things where you're getting beach balls thrown, at you going up a hill. Like, it's just what happens. So that was on the more technical side, but there wasn't really any single track. The rocks were really chunky, and the gradients were very steep, as opposed to like a rolling Unbound or a Steamboat or a Gravel Worlds. This was definitely on the chunkier side and steeper.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, when we interviewed the Ventum CEO a couple weeks ago, who said they're going to adjust the course and maybe make it a little more friendly for next year, not quite so nasty. So anyway, hey, well, Alison, I want to introduce you formally. First of all, shame on you for not knowing who she is, but I'll do a short introduction. I was really introduced to you by Kristen. So Kristen's obviously a huge fan. And every time I was writing your introduction, she kept saying, well, are you going to include her, how smart she is? Are you going to include her charity work? Are you going to include such and so? Hopefully we won't miss anything. I was really taken back, Alison, though, how important education is to you. It's really neat to see how smart you are and how much you worked on becoming who you are professionally. And maybe we can talk about that a little later. I love your backstory about getting involved in cycling and your grandfather. Such a neat story, kind of moving you into cycling and into sport. I would love to hear your experience with him and your experience in getting into cycling. That would be a fun thing to talk about for a minute. And then Brianne told us especially to ask you about traumatic brain injury and taking care of your body, taking care of yourself, and being an advocate for health and being an advocate for not being a moron on a bike, which we have it's a thing. It's a lot of, it's a thing, especially with this group. So anyway, we're super grateful to have you on, and thanks for spending the time. I know you're super busy, so we're grateful to have you for a minute. So thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm super excited to be here. And we can dive in. For those listening, I think something that education is huge. So for those parents that, if you want your kid to race bikes, I'm always into, your school's most important first and foremost. And then for me as a cyclist, I have a biochemistry background. I was working in the lab for Amgen, and I found the bike through my grandfather, and he didn't find, so also another good thing for the listeners. My grandfather didn't find the bike till after 50. He's a Korean War vet, contractor, distance runner, and he shows up on some group rides, which I'm sure a lot of you guys do. And he's just 50-something-year-old hanging with the young guys. And he's I'm pretty good at this bike riding thing, and he couldn't run anymore. Running's hard, right? And he got into it really late, and he ended up being 17-time national champion, Masters national champion for USA Cycling. And I was at his last, he unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but I was at his last Masters, and he was 85 in racing, and they didn't even have an 85 plus category yet. He's just racing with the young 80-year-olds. And he's out there. I'm like, what's your plan, Grampy? He's to win,
Yes.
But he taught me a lot on the bike, and he's the one that got me into the sport. And I played tennis in college, and there I am working in a lab after tennis and running and I'm living in Boston at the time. And you know how it is, I played NCAA sports, but you're but never was I going to be pro. As much as I would like to have been, didn't start soon enough. And I'm just like still this competitive edge. And so I'm like running, thinking I'm pretty fast. And my grandpa keeps telling me like, ride a bike. And I'm like, that is the dorkiest mother effing thing I've ever seen. Like those like neon clothes, the like, you know, and I'm like, you get out on this bike all hunched over like a weirdo, you know, nah, it's cool. I'll just take your musette bags instead. And then I tried racing bikes. I did triathlon and then quickly got into bike racing. And within 2 months, it was pretty phenomenal. Like it turns out I probably got his lungs. So he was the first person to like pick me up from the airport and take me to the U.S. Olympic Committee. Like I went to the like talent ID camp, and then I'm racing in Europe. And 2 months later, still terrified about falling over on the start line. Like clipping in was still a problem. It still is. Let's be honest. Clipping in can be hard, right? Yeah. But yeah, he was phenomenal. But so something though to think about is finding it late in life, and the two things taught me several things. But cycling teaches you humility. There's always somebody better than you. You can be Peter Sagan and world champion one day, and the next day you can still get beat. And so that's just something like, don't compare yourself on your results into other people, but it's like your performance. And he wasn't a very emotional guy. It took him a long time to tell me he loved me. And that's nothing bad. Like he really loved me. He just was a very serious guy. And he, though, you know, I'd call him crying and he'd be like, well, did you do your best? Like, and if I said, no, he'd be like, what could you change? And then he'd say, he's like, all right, next time. But like, Al, it's okay. You know, there's always someone better. This is a hard sport, and just all you can do is be your best. And I think that's really great advice. And then watch him as he aged to keep pushing his limits. And, you know, he was getting slower and he was calling me frustrated, you know, and to keep going out, and did he do his best? So, and I guarantee right now he's somewhere looking down at us saying he did his best, you know. So
nice. I love that.
I almost started crying. I got through that.
And then from there, Alison, you have obviously prestigious a list of world accomplishments, races, and whatnot. Any of those, I mean, for you as you look back, and racing with Brianne, what stands out most from your professional career as like a road cyclist?
Yeah, so I started racing around 2009. And, immediately was racing around the world, U.S. national team. I raced at the world tour level for quite some time. I've had some really fun wins. You always remember the races you did well at, not the ones sometimes you didn't do well. You try to forget those, but you either win or you learn, is that what they say?
Yeah.
So the one I won, I probably don't, learn much, but I lost a lot more than I won. I think some of my favorite standout moments were around teams. So one being racing the Giro Dawn, so the women's Giro d'Italia, 10 days in Italy, and on the national team for USA national team. And we won with Mara Abbott, very talented climber, phenomenal, very famous for her unfortunate fourth place at the Olympics. In last 2000 whatever Olympics before this one, but that was just about kind of working together for an ultimate goal. My first UCI win was Tour de San Luis in Argentina, and I was guest riding on an Argentinian team, and so we have like a party bus going to the races, and Argentinians like love to dance and eat red meat and red wine, and I was in heaven. And it was just so fun to not have pressure. And I'm just racing, like I'm guest riding on a local team. And then I win like a UCI, like Tour de San Luis. And that was like probably one of my favorite. And then my most favorite is not about winning, but I raced for Astana a summer. And it was one of these things that we do this in cycling, like we like to glorify suffering, and which I hate. And we like to make things sound harder. Like how many times it's like somebody passes me at Leadville and like some guy's like, hey, you should get descending lessons, or like you should try cyclocross sometime, or, like we just like, but like that's what we do. We're like, cyclocross is so hard, but it's so good for your skills. You should try, like we always like make things sound so hard as cyclists, and then you do it and you're like, eh. And so in the US, when I was racing, I had teams that's like, Alison, you need to get tougher, like, you need to go to Europe where the roads are smaller and people are like racing for a living and not just like you do this for so much fun. And so I like went and raced for Astana, and I'm the only American on the team. Like No one really speaks English. It's a wonderful team. Like we have 9 different countries. It's just this really cool experience. I'm living in Italy. And the team director's like, I like you. Like these girls race because they have to. You race because you have passion. Like you have the passion for the sport. And I love that because I'm like, see, like you can do both. You can race because you have to. And you also can just race because you love it. And we showed up for the UCI World Championships and training for the team time trial, which is like the hardest discipline in the entire world. I think like you just hate your teammates. You swear a lot at them because they're going so hard. And we show up and I've been doing like these training camps, but I don't understand what's going on. They send us to altitude, like you don't eat much. Like I'm trying to like hoard food and find Aperol spritzes around, like trying to survive. You know, I'm good. And like our team just like bonded over like kind of just struggling through training, and we're doing team time trial exercises. And I'm in the radio, but they're not speaking English. Obviously, they're speaking Italian. And I don't know when we're going hard, when we're not going hard. So my training was even harder than theirs. And I'm like, oh, we're going hard. How long are we going hard? And we show up to the UCI World Championships, the team time trial. And I'm like, I tell my director, Walter, I'm like, you just have to speak English a little bit to me in the radio because I'm going to be going full gas, you know, bleeding through my eyes. And I understand enough Italian just to hurt myself. And he's like, yeah, Alison, I will, little English for you. I'll tell you what to do. And we go and do it. And the only thing in English he said is, Alison, no break, because I like to break a lot. I think breaks are very convenient. You know, they slow you down. So he says, Alison, no break. And he's telling us the whole race, like, oh, you guys are the fastest. You're the most beautiful, you know, like, you know, alle regata, you know, like, go girls, go girls. And he's saying how beautiful and fast we are. We have the fastest time. And we finished, and we actually did have the fastest time. And we ended up getting 3rd. And we were like the happiest 3rd place, like Bad News Bears, like on this little team, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, you get those moments where you're like, we were the happiest. And I was like, we had the fastest split in the first half. He's like, no, you were much slower. But he was like pushing us, and he just knew how to bring us together. So it was one of those beautiful things. I was like, I don't ever want to do this again because you can't recreate that moment. So that's probably one of my favorite road racing career.
Love it. That's awesome. That's so fun.
So cool.
Allie, when you transitioned from professional road cycling into being, and Chip's going to talk a little bit more about gravel and your career, but can you talk a little bit about your brain injury and kind of what caused the transition into gravel?
Chip, are you going or do I talk?
Yeah,
I'm really good at talking, apparently.
Yeah.
You're good.
Walk us through the transition from that point.
So I was racing on a World Tour Team Silent, so for Cannondale, and this is in 2016 and 17. And wonderful director. He was actually my director when we won the Giro, Manel. And living in Europe full time, living in Spain actually now instead of Italy, which it was awesome as well. And racing. And once you start showing up to start lines, like to these big races that everyone, you know, puts on a pedestal, like Flanders, and you're showing up, and I'm just kind of like, all right, yeah, I'm going to do my job and do this, going to have, you know, and then I can't wait to go back to my pool in Spain, you know, and then I started also because of I had a really bad injury in 2010, then into 2012, which we can dive into quickly. But I have a very, let's call it a high respect for gravity. Lots of respect as a scientist, yes. And as my head is very fragile. Coming back from a traumatic brain injury and then subsequent concussions, little things can jostle it. You know, people are like, did you break your helmet? I'm like, no, but I don't feel okay, you know? So I was breaking more. So I was like becoming more of a domestique or a solo stage hunter than I was, you know, gunning to the final finish because I was scared. And once I braked one too many times just in thinking like I wasn't actually enjoying being that scared into the final kilometers, that there was probably another wonderful woman that deserved this opportunity that I had. And I was like, I want to do something that actually inspires me. If I'm not finding inspiration in what I'm doing, like what does? And I live in Petaluma, California, where Yuri Oswald lives, and he's a famous OG gravel rider, and Rebecca Rush would come and visit him. And I heard about what it was called at the time, Dirty Kansas, which is now Unbound. And it's like, they just always look like they're having so much fun on their bikes. And like, we don't look like we're having fun on our bikes racing world tour. We're like, you know, and like not talking to anybody. You get your team bus, you get your like massage. And I'm like, I don't even like massages. And I just want a beer afterwards. And I just want to hang out with my family or like friends. And I couldn't do that. So I wanted to leave Silence, and Manel's like, give me one more year. And I was like, fine, one more year. And I get to pick all the races I want to do. And one of them is going to be this gravel race. He's like, what is this gravel? And I was like, I'm going to do this 200-mile like dirt ride. He was like, that's dumb. You'll be so slow from that. It's probably true. But, and he goes, okay, you can do all the races except these ones that you hate. And I was like, fine. And I didn't even, it wasn't about racing Unbound at the time, but it was just, I wanted to experience it. And I thought I'm getting paid to ride bikes. Why not? And so I finished Unbound, won, still have the course record on there. And that was in 2017. And it was like the most tired I've ever been. Like the next day I woke up, like biggest bike hangover ever. Like everything in my body hurt, like puffy eyes, like, having my Bloody Mary the next morning, you're like, what did I do? Like what happened to me? And everyone was like, was that the hardest thing you've ever done? I'm like, well, no, it's totally different. Like, have you ever been dropped at Flush Alone 17,000 times and being yelled at the radio and like told to get back up and work again to get dropped again? Like, that's really freaking hard too. But this was just like a different, like, I think my body was ready for something. My body and mind was ready for something different. And then like Queen of Gravel came. Like I just started going to every gravel event, won Gravel Worlds 3 times and just did all the gravel. Now gravel is like a UCI thing according to the news today, which I already knew that was coming, but that's totally cool. I mean, gravel to me still is going to be like, what Spencer and I did at Wasatch. I'm pretty much on that boat of just like, let's go ride gravel. Like if that is on my mountain bike or, but I think it's about inclusivity and bringing, just having fun. And if you want to go hard, go hard. If your hard's it doesn't matter. But that's kind of how the transition happened. And fortunately, I had been working with Specialized at the time while I was racing on a product development for a new saddle for women. So we did the Mimic technology, which was super cool. I was like, Houston, we have a problem. Girls aren't comfortable on bikes. And that when I was still racing pro. So that was a very nice transition for me also to work with Specialized in a larger fashion. And so I still currently represent them and, believe in what they do. But our Mimic saddle is great. Now I'm on the Mirror. Like we keep her just evolving, making things gender specific when they need to be and not, so that's a whole nother podcast, but super cool. Saddles are great from them and shoes, everything, but that's been fun. Product development. So it looks like it's just like ambassador, which it is, but to get to work with the engineers and the managers and that's so fun. Like no matter what bike company it is, but Specialized, as is like a huge one. So that's pretty cool.
Nice. Well, go ahead, Spence.
Yeah. Stay on that for 1 second, Allie, because I thought, and everyone that follows Allie's social media is so fun. You do such an awesome job. And the leading up to the new retro Diverge, the new Specialized retro Diverge, like the first day that you had the bike like colored out and something special was coming, I was like sitting on the edge of my seat, like what is coming tomorrow, and then there it was. And it was like, now this is cool. So as you talk a little bit about like being able to be on cutting edge with Specialized and trialing and riding everything new, that is so awesome. So
it is. Well, and our team,
it's super cool because, well, I mean, I'm not trying to do all the sponsor plugs, but it's a rad company that really does put their money where their like mouth is. But when we launched the new Diverge in 2020, I've been riding the new Diverge for 2-3 years when it looked like it was duct taped together with exposed carbon. And it's so fun how much like. I get on it and it's my science background and I'm a little bit of a princess in the pea, especially when it comes to saddles, bikes. And like, since I am so risk adverse too, if I feel more confident on the bike or I can ride wider tires, like what do I want is different than what you guys might want. But they bring in, lots of people like that. But it is fun to watch this duct tape looking bike. I'm like, are you guys sure? Is this like a death bike? Like, what are you putting me on? Or like a saddle, like I'll cut out what I like. I'm like, I feel pressure right here. And they just like, X-Acto knife it out, put some foam in, and they're like, now try it. I'm like, better, you know, and that's just like super cool to see like how much like dork is in the bike industry, which is fun also that we're recognizing what women need, what men need, and just making things faster, better, safer. Like it's super cool. We're dorks.
Well, it's fun to watch though, like the stuff that so that bike, this group, like the Duole group, I would say maybe 2 years ago, all bought gravel and cyclocross bikes. And then they all arrived at the ride in flannel shirts. And I'm like, what's going on? What's happening? Where is this And then it's from you. And then my wife wears a bandana, all your bandanas that she wears. And it's so fun to watch. In my opinion, big kudos to you for setting not only some trends and some fun things that are going on in cycling, but to stay relevant and share fun stories and share neat things that help the bike community in a way that is like positive and healthy and helps the group grow. That is a really big kudos to you for all the work you do there. So
you're just trying to make me feel great right now. Thank you so much.
That's because you're awesome.
I think that goes back to the basic of, and we do not even want to say the word spirit of gravel, but I just said it. So just pretend I didn't.
That's the new title of the podcast.
It is what Kristen does and you guys do. It's just inclusivity, right? Like it's making it fun. And the flannels or the jorts or whatever. I mean, yeah, sure, go have a UCI World Championships. And there are people, I mean, go race it. You know, if that's your goal, do it. That's awesome. But also like, we don't always have to take ourselves so seriously on bikes either. And so, you know, people are riding bikes, like back to people making things sound really hard. We also tend to judge like, oh, you know, their kit doesn't match or their socks are too low or their glasses are in the wrong place. Like, you know, and you guys will agree with me. If you're riding bikes, like you're doing it right, right? Like you're just doing it right. Like your saddle height is fine. I mean, maybe you have some knee pain, you know, go to Brian Day for that.
Yeah.
But like really like so many, like we tend to critique on that, you know, because it's this, you know, aesthetics. And I'm sure you have all levels in your crew, but just, you know, we help each other when it's needed. And other times just like cheer people on. Super rad riding bikes.
Yeah, so cool. Allie, if we can stay on some of these crazy rides that we've began to talk about, here's a question that I think that many are noticing, especially in the gravel events. It's almost like Unbound maybe set the tone for, okay, this is possibly or is the hardest gravel event in the country. But every gravel event that is launching or a new director creates a new event is like setting that as that's setting the tone, and therefore every director is trying to either outdo it or come up with quote unquote the hardest gravel ride in Utah, Colorado, you know, Wyoming, and so is it becoming like, dude, this event is so hard that it's taking the fun out of it, or is it like, hey, you just better expect that any of these events is going to be, it just is what it is. And then here's the kind of what I've noticed is that in gravel racing, because there's so much terrain available in the forests and gravel roads, therefore you can go for 200 miles, et cetera, versus like a road race, you can only work out and get licensing for so much space, right? So what are your thoughts on like the future of gravel racing and each director just continuing to try to outdo the last race?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely do, but there's going to be a space for, we're at a pivot point of gravel, right? Where I was talking to a couple of directors this morning and just some text messages, and basically what I see is there's two disciplines, because we have this whole like, you know, whatever gravel controversy on teams, which has been happening forever, and I refuse to talk about that. So so you're going to have these pointy end of the races, and yeah, pros are getting paid to race like on ride, and you're going to have teams and that. And then the other discipline is kind of where I think I fell in love with gravel, which for me, like it's back to telling your team and, you know, like find something that inspires you. Like I wanted to go to Unbound because I'd never ridden 200 miles. Like longest I'd ridden was 120, and it was awesome. Personally, I am not attracted to races that tell me like how death-defying descents are, or like I don't like underbiking. Some people love it, and props to them. But if you tell me it's underbiking, which I mean, if you guys know what that is, but it's like there is no right bike, and there's like gnarly single track, but then we put you on tarmac, and then you go on fast gravel roads, and you're gonna have this. I'm like, cool, man. And race promoters will send that to me, and that's just not my jam. Like I'm a roadie at heart, so I like monotony. I like to like push my endurance. I like that's what I like. So, but you know, each to their own. Some people love just shredding. You know, some of those descents we did, you know, at Wasatch or whatever, right? Where like on my mountain bike, they were awesome. I was just so happy I wasn't on my gravel bike. But I've never passed that many dudes on a descent. Like, and I was like, oh, underbiking. Like, my bike is better for this situation. So, I mean, they are trying to one up, but now there's going to start becoming a theme. Like, there's also like a race every weekend. There's 3 every weekend. And it's hard to choose from. But I think that's awesome. For me personally, I'm going to still support. Right now, I'm on the path of going to new events. Like, I was literally driving through Utah to go stay at Brie and Dave's. And I was going to be driving right through Park City. And I was like, yes, I'll go stay in Heber and do this. And, you know, but, my neighbor just said hi. Sorry, she's so cute. She's 9. But I think it's about they are trying to one up and all of that, and that's not bad. Like eventually you're going to hit your limit. Like personally, I don't. It's what you want to do and look at it. I think some people get shocked when you hit an event and you're like, oh, that was a lot harder. Like I was telling Jeff after Wasatch, I think I would have really liked the 60-mile version of that. I thought it would take me 7 hours, and it took me 8. Or you know, whatever, you know, and you're like, wow, that was longer than I thought. Totally fine. So there's going to be I did a series like 50 Shades of Gravel because gravel doesn't really have a definition. Like where you guys are, your gravel is different than mine. I don't really have gravel here in NorCal. Like it's mountain biking where I am. So either I mountain bike or I road bike. If you did a gravel race, it would be gnarly, which they did. But most people ride mountain bikes because they know better. So, you know, it's just it's about finding that sweet spot. But hopefully, there's always grassroots events that keep that general like encouragement to get people just to come and try in their flannel shirts. Like we have this grasshopper series here that is kind of got famous for a hot minute, and it probably still will be. And when I'm getting interviewed for like Velo News on my local series, I ride my bike too and ride back. I mean, Kat Nash and Kate Courtney are there, but we just have fun, like kind of kicking each other's teeth in and then having beers and like riding home. And then suddenly like everyone like gravel was hip. So that was funny. Right. And I hope like there's always those local like events you can go to and actually just really enjoy that bring people in the sport. And then there's going to be these ones that are going to get super intense and long, and that's fun too. But choose your poison, you know, like you guys just did Lodija. That was actually, I mean, I had a lot of fun doing that because it was kind of like it's a famous thing. And that was the fastest tour. Like I'd never ridden 200 miles that fast. I was like, well, this is like not bad. 200 miles. The only other time I've ridden 200 miles on dirt. So I was like, oh, this isn't so bad. We're going real fast.
When we were going up the Snake River, we were about halfway up the canyon, and you passed me. And because I knew you were in the race, and it was kind of like, oh man, I hope I don't see her. I hope they don't pass me, knowing that and there you came past me and you were alone, and I'm like, oh man.
I was having the time of my life.
Crushing it. Yeah.
I heard that song, like that kind of track with the race is on, and here comes Pride, the backstretch. I was like, I think I'm ready to go now. Yeah, I feel great. That's the other thing, you know, that's what we do in cycling, like Lodija, when we did it for Leadville too. It just goes back to like how we glorify these things. Like I know every climb in Leadville before I ever did it. Like this is my first mountain bike this year. I'm when I'm done on Leadville, but I loved it. I had so much fun, so I'm done. But you know, I like know about Powerline and Columbine, and then like I'm coming to Lodija, and like people are like, you know, this climb and then this climb, and I'm like,
I don't know. Yeah.
Whatever, man. When's the finish?
Yep.
You know, but like, you know, that's a big deal.
Yeah. That was really fun.
Now I can't remember any of your climbs. Sorry.
Yep.
I went up them.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Just come next year. It'll be great.
So, Allie,
hey.
these events, what was the best of it? From me looking outside in, looking at the events you did in 2021, like I am sold on going to Montana and doing the Last Best Ride event. That looks so awesome. But then to top it off, the next day riding your bike up Glacier looked just as good. Like that is the coolest event.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Also really cold, but just bring warmer clothes than I had brought on this long trip. Gravel Locos I really loved in Texas, in Hico, Texas. 150 miles, pretty like really like you guys, it was pouring rain, but it was like warm rain. And like here that would mean mud. There it's and it's like nice gravel. So it's like definitely my gravel bike was perfect. Not once did I not, want a road bike or a mountain bike. And it rained and it still stayed compact and not it's not technical. Like it wasn't like suddenly you're in peanut butter. And it was a free community event all going to that local town, which I loved that one. Unbound, I had a time. I'm like family to them. Like literally there's like a huge life-size poster of me in a bar. And like, it's, Last Best Ride, Jess, Sarah, she's a dear friend. So her and I decided to tie for second at Gravel Locos because we were like racing and it was just like this really cool experience where we're racing. We're like we're really good friends. Hence I drove like 20 hours to Whitefish to see her. So, and kind of look at each other. It was about 50 miles to go and 150. And she's like, what are you thinking? And I just got the chills. And I'm like, I don't know. What? I have a really crazy idea. And she's like, me too. And I was like, do you want to tie? And she's like, yes. And then we just go and shred and like just exchange a pull for pull. It goes hard as we can, but not like being mean to the, like not, how you can kind of screw somebody up and like pull too hard and we just start riding so hard. And then we're like cross the line together and we're like, we will get second place. And that was really cool. And then, her ride up in Whitefish, but then the next day we did Glacier, which was awesome. You just have to be out of the park by 11. So you start really early. And I'm just going to tell you, it was 37 degrees at the start and I didn't have leg warmers.
Wow.
So gosh. I was really cold, but it was really pretty. And it was not far from you guys. I toured the vineyards for Roll Mat Road, not gravel. But that was awesome. But the next day they have an event this weekend. I think it's probably sold out, but road riding again. But I did Tour of the Moon. I don't know if you guys have ever ridden that. I posted photos on my Instagram. It was all road bike. It's like it's a 41-mile loop, but they have a 41 and like a 64. You can just go ride it. But freaking insane. Total road ride, but it's out of Grand Junction. I don't think that's like that far from Utah. I mean, that's close, it's like Moab. Cool. But I didn't know it existed. It's called the Colorado Monument, but the road is like Tour of the Moon Byway or something, and it's just like Grand Canyon, and you're just like riding your bike around it, and that was really cool. So I did Indy Pass last week too. Like I'm just like crossing off lists. Like, I don't know what I need to be home.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, we were.
So there's something for everybody, and I do love a good road ride. You guys just did Loaded Justice, so do you. Like I love gravel, but I love good road ride too. It's fast.
What do you think is 2022 going to look the same? Are you planning on doing the same, as active as you were? And I guess more importantly than that, what is it that's driving you? Are you still just in love with all of the events, or is it something deeper?
I forgot about one event though. Oregon Trail Gravel Grinder. Yeah. I forgot about one event. Oregon Trail Gravel Grinder. The 5 days, like it's point to point camping all around Cascade in Bend, Oregon, like the Cascade Mountains. Freaking awesome. Gravel. Okay, anyway. Oregon Trail Gravel Grinder. Everyone says it's expensive, and you're like, it's 5 days. You get 3 meals, snack stops, fully supported beer, whiskey. Like you can't even get a hotel for that price. Yeah. Anyway, but they set up the tent for you because I'm not a camper really, but they like bring you your big Tupperware. It's kind of like some of those mountain bike race styles. They bring you your stuff along. But yeah, you're just like going around like Mount Bachelor and all of that. Like it's epic. Anyway, next year we'll look similar. Full gas. I love supporting the sport. I also think it's good to social listen on, what does the sport need? How can we help? For me, that might not be racing. Maybe maybe I have to ride a Spencer. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
That's right. I'll be there.
Maybe he needs my support.
I'll be there.
No, but I'm thinking about how do we bring more people, which is, Chris and I have bonded over this is, more women in the sport, and, Bree as well is she has her women's rides there in Salt Lake City, getting diversity and creating more opportunity. And sometimes that's not, riding elbows out full gas at the front, which is totally cool. Winning is totally fun. And I love to win, but there's a need, I think, to bring people in and start these conversations. And so I like to support new events. But there's some that are just, I think, do really a good job for their communities. So I'm always going to go back to a few of my favorites, and then, go from there and just try to create more start lines, more opportunities for people to get to start lines, I think is my big plan.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
On that note, Allie, one thing that is really cool, we've mentioned bandanas twice, 3 times, but for those listening, the bandanas, the foundation support scholarships for girls joining NICA, and many on this that are listening. Actually, Stu and I both have kids racing in NICA for our local high school, and such a cool program. And so Allison's foundation provides scholarships for a full season, correct?
We did 5 selling bandanas, which is actually pretty darn good for a bandana so far. We're going to do another round, yes, we will do, but we ended up doing 5 scholarships for, the first 5 just went to NorCal High School Cycling League, which is part of NICA, but I was able to attend their grit camp, which is girls riding together, and award these athletes of female identifying athletes with financial need to get a scholarship to be able to race NICA. And then luckily I have wonderful partners. So they got some specialized swag, chamois butter, camelbacks. Got the cycling 101 set up, and they were so stoked. So yeah, that was super cool. If anyone's interested, it's in the link in my bio on Instagram, or just Google Alison Tetrick bandana. It'll probably come up. But we have I have one new extra style, and we did, when we were in Gravel Locos, I sold some bandanas there that went to the local fire station, because I like going to, just helping local, communities that we impact with bikes. And then we did at Unbound, I sold bandanas, which went to Outride and the Lifetime Foundation, which was super cool. But the ones on my website all go to NICA. And that's, so 5 scholarships was a lot. It was really exciting. And I'm hoping to do a few more before the end of the year as we get into this next race season.
So awesome.
Those grit girls are awesome. Kristen hosts a group here in Salt Lake. And Specialized did the same thing. She asked them, she just said, hey, and they sent the cool, I have had a hard time not dipping into the Specialized grit goodie box that was sent to our house. It's so good. They were awesome to step up and send these girls.
It's so cool. The girls have they got their outfits, and they're so excited. And, as you guys all know, cycling is, the barrier to entry is quite high. So anything we can do to alleviate that, and that's the way we get more people in sport. I probably wouldn't have been able to ride bikes when I was in high school, but those bikes are expensive. My parents did give me a horse, but which is probably about the same price.
Nice. Hey, Alison, you've had so much experience just in bike culture, bike life. As we wrap up, is there any advice that you would give to young cyclists, young members of this team, or even girls on our team, or young riders? Any advice you get, and it doesn't have to be cycling advice, anything you've learned that you'd want to pass on?
Yeah, I think First of all, we'll talk really, I mean, I might go over a second, but just really quick on being a traumatic brain injury survivor, which is just basically a more severe form of a concussion. It just meant I was unconscious. But head injuries are gnarly. And I think a lot of us come back too fast. And so that would go into my advice that the year after I'm life flighted out of the Cascades, actually in Bend, Oregon, life flighted out, seizures for a few days, and couldn't read for a year. But you know what? I came back so fast, and everyone's like, "That's awesome! You're so fast!" And that was probably the most unhealthy I've ever been in my life. Is because I didn't. So this goes to my advice. So sorry, but I was so fixated on coming back. You know, like I have a broken pelvis, and I'm ignoring the whole chaos in my brain because you know that's what we do when we're stressed or mentally unhealthy. You know, you tend to compartmentalize that. And so I'm like waiting for my bones to heal so I can come back, and I'm winning all these races and getting all these big contracts. But that was the most unbalanced in my life I'd ever been and most unhappy. So first of all, like comparing yourself to others and results, like enjoy the process. But for me, it was about also separating my identity as this athlete that was going to go to the Olympics and going to do all these cool things and going to be all of that. And now I'm like, I'm so much more because I wasn't, because I had to learn that I wasn't just an athlete. I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a granddaughter, I'm a scientist, I'm a cowgirl. Like it took therapy, don't get me wrong, but like to realize that I wasn't just a cyclist or just an athlete. And it really made me happier. And did it make me as fast as I could have been? Actually, maybe, but maybe not. But I was happier, healthier, more loving, and had a better support system because of it. So if I didn't live on an island with that laser focus. So that's why we were talking about at the beginning of the program that education is so important. During my career, I maintained a full-time job, and I still do outside of bikes. And that's just important because it goes back to that balance. And people would ask, like, I'm taking conference calls at 2 a.m. and then racing in Europe, you know, like I'm in Europe and taking these calls late. And I'm just not even telling you when I'm in Europe. Like I'm kind of doing this side hustle, but / full-time job for a real big company. But it was kind of fun because when I did like start breaking in the corners or I crashed or something, I'm like, man, I got a day job. Like I'm good if I don't but that made me, I think, a happier, more balanced athlete. You're like, yeah, I'll have a glass of wine, or yeah, I'll laugh at the start line. Like I don't need to be cold or, you know, so I think it's just, I'm not telling everyone to have a beat, but to always like focus on that education and balance, and having a career that just gives you something more than just bikes. Because so many times we fixate on only bikes, and that goes into the older racers, you know, like older, I mean, just not the get it freeze. Oh yeah. Not just the kids or, you know, like not just junior racers, but, you know, a lot of times, you know, people sacrifice time with their family or they want to train like a pro. And I know Bree and Dave would agree with me on this, but I can win Unbound and set the course record. And win Lotaja. I can win Gravel Worlds. And did I ever ride 200 miles? No. Did I ever ride 12 hours? No. Like my longest ride was probably 6. Like you don't have to, just like you train for a marathon, you don't have to do that distance and do 30 hours a week to do that one event. And I think a lot of people want to train like a pro and do it if you want to, but don't sacrifice time with your family, your education. And that's where coaching comes in and that balance. And yeah, so it's really hard for me to look at Strava sometimes. You know, you're like, yeah, they're going so hard. They're going so long and I have to work. And then I realize, you know, I have more time to do other things and I'm happier or / really stressed. So don't look at Strava.
Exactly. Stupid Strava.
Right. But like, you know, so you guys might have somebody that is like training for their first century or, you know, they're nervous about a certain distance or, you know, like a teammate that's like never done Unbound. Like literally, I don't think you ever have to ride more than 100 miles to finish Unbound. Like, I think you're fine.
Yeah.
You guys, you know, do you get what I'm saying on that? Like, I think that's.
I love it. Yeah. Very good. It's awesome.
So good.
Great advice.
Especially because like I see, you know, your kids just came home. We got Spencer in the office still. Like,
yep.
You know, the struggle's real, but it's not, right? Like, you know, when you went and did Lotaja and you had fun, but it's not like you have to sacrifice everything. Like, right. I think that's where coaching comes in big. Like, I have a great coach that's been with me forever. And yeah, for him to give me structure on those busy days. So maybe my ride's only an hour and it might be really effing hard, but I'm just efficient. I go with efficiency. And then I sometimes I just want to have fun, and then I tell him to not talk to me, and I'm going to go ride all day with my friends.
Yep.
You know, so it's a balance. He gave me workouts last night though, and they required weights, and I don't own weights or a foam roller or a yoga mat. So I was using a beach towel and wine bottles, which are 2.65 pounds.
Perfect. Oh my gosh.
That's so awesome.
So do as I say, not as I do. I was like,
So
stretch.
Here, let me just bottle of wine. Just
A beach towel. I love it.
That's what I told him. I'm like, they're
That's
2.65 pounds. If I drink it, it's lighter.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Don't do that, kids. But
Very good.
weights, I don't have those. Foam roller, no, but I'm sure that they're good for something.
Yep.
Very cool.
Bree and Dave will kill me for saying that, won't they? Yeah.
They will.
Yep, they will. Well, thanks, Allison. We know we're gonna wrap up, but we sure appreciate you and your time and your example to the team. We're grateful to just connect, and hopefully next time you come, we can ride with you and Brianne. Hopefully we'll be we can ride in the back. We'll just hide in the we'll pretend that we're just in the back of your ride. So
I would love to ride with you, but mainly Kristen. I'm just kidding. I already rode with Spencer, so
Yep.
I'll put Kristen on my list. I'm just kidding. I guess technically I already passed your load adjust, so it's fine. No, I would love to be there. I'll be there in October, so hopefully to ride. And hi, friend. Hi. I'll be there in October. Maybe we can ride.
Awesome.
Yes.
Can you hear Kristen?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're coming in October. Are you coming to visit Brianne?
Specialized, but I will have to see my little B Rose and Bree. So
Nice.
yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Thanks, Allie.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. See you,
All right.
everybody.
Bye.